Eileen, thanks so much. The new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that inflation slowed again for the 7th straight month, but it's a mix of good and bad news. Prices rose 6.4% in January compared to last year. In December, it was 6.5%. So a little progress was made, but overall, it's well below the peak of 9.1% in June. But on a monthly basis, prices rose 0.5% from December to January. That's a lot higher than the 0.1% from the prior report. While overall inflation is slowing down, it is still far below the Federal Reserve's annual inflation target of 2%. Adding to the problem is the higher than expected jobs that were added last month, meaning the Fed faces a tougher job of balancing the economy when it comes to those interest rate hikes. And this morning, we welcome Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman, good morning. We appreciate you being here. We heard that news about the economy. Obviously, this is a big concern for people. So what's Congress doing to address it?
It is a big concern because the high cost of fuel and food and other necessities is really making it hard for people to get by. I've introduced legislation to suspend the federal gas tax and pay for it with a windfall profits tax on the oil companies. While we are paying so much at the pump, the oil companies are making record profits, sometimes 2 or 3 times more than they made just a few years ago. So we're getting gouged. And the government's not powerless to do something about it. If we can bring down energy costs, that would help a great deal in curbing these inflation numbers. But we need to do more to help people get by. I'd love to see us once again restore the child tax credit that was helping so many families afford things like child care and other necessities. You
talked about the gas tax legislation. Where does that stand now?
Well, I introduced it last session. We'll be reintroducing it again this session.
Okay.
Look, legislators are going to have to choose whether they support lowering taxes at the pump or whether they're going to defend the windfall profits of oil companies and keep those taxes where they are. I think it's an easy choice for me. I would hope it would be an easy choice for others.
One other topic we want to address this morning, a Republican senator recently saying if things don't change, there could possibly be a 24% reduction in Social Security and Medicare benefits. What needs to happen to avoid that?
Well, that's a non-starter as far as I'm concerned and as far as President Biden is concerned. Some of the Republicans, though, hope to use either the debt ceiling debate or the threat of closing down the government to make cuts to Social Security and Medicare. That's never going to fly. People have earned those benefits. People rely on those benefits. So that is never going to happen.
But so Californians shouldn't be concerned about that?
Not as long as Joe Biden is in the White House. Okay. We're going to fight that in the House. They may be able to pass some of this stuff in the House. It'll never get through the Senate. And look, we're talking about benefits that people have earned. It's not for the government to be taking those away.
There's also in the news this morning quite a bit of concern about this recent news of objects flying over the U.S. So far, 3 of them have been taken down. The Biden administration has come under fire now for lack of transparency about this. Obviously, the American people are concerned about what's going on. What are your concerns about the lack of information so far?
I think the administration did the right thing in shooting the first balloon down, but waiting until it was not over land. It was at an altitude where it wasn't going to interfere with aircraft, and we're able to recover a lot of what was downed. So I think that was the right decision. At the same time, we clearly have to have a much better sense of what's in our airspace, because I'm sure it's not the case that we have seen 4 intrusions into our airspace just this month, and this was not a function in the past. I'm sure there were other intrusions in the past that we simply didn't catch. In the Intelligence Committee, we passed legislation last session to better study some of these unexplained aerial phenomenon, to set up a unit at the Pentagon to do that. The White House is now setting up their own task force, and I think those steps make a lot of sense.
And we do know there's a classified briefing that's happening today with senators, but should people be concerned? I mean, is there a major security concern about this?
Well, there are 2 concerns. One, the first, which has been identified as a Chinese surveillance balloon, that could potentially gather communications. It has the ability to hover, which would allow better imagery compared potentially to a satellite. Mm-hmm. So yes, from an intelligence gathering point of view by an adversary, we should be very concerned about it. These other balloons, if they are balloons, were at lower altitudes. There the concern is that you could have a civilian aircraft collide with one of these things. Sure. and cause a calamity. At the end of the day, though, we need to get a much better sense of what's in our airspace.
And of course, Senator, one of the reasons you're traveling the state is because you have announced your bid for Senate. We do have to ask, you've announced this bid. It is expected to be a crowded field, but this announcement is coming even though Senator Feinstein has not yet even announced that she's not going to run. So would you still face her in this race if she does decide to run for her seat?
I went to see Senator Feinstein before I even started exploring this with people and told her that I would like to get out and start talking to people. I was interested in running for the Senate. She made it clear that she was going to finish her term. Beyond that, she hadn't made a decision, but she was perfectly comfortable with my going out and beginning to campaign. And I spoke to her again even before we made our announcement. She was very gracious about it. I think the senator will announce her intentions when she feels the time is right. And to her credit, I think she has got to where she is today and broken the glass ceiling she's broken by not letting other people tell her what she can and cannot do.
Of course. But to the question, if she announces and does decide to continue to run, are you going to stay in the race?
I don't want to preempt anything that she's going to say. I think she'll make an announcement probably within the next weeks or months, and I think out of respect for her, I want to allow her to make her own statement.
Okay, our Ashley Zavala, I know, is going to do some interviews with you also today, so we'll be hearing from you throughout the day here at KCRA 3. We do thank you for coming in this morning and being with us.
My pleasure.
Mike, back over to you.